Link Show channel here over at SubScribestar. The short version, if you're an SCW, tune out. The short version of this is if there's a chance to portray if a character has to be portrayed negatively, they're going to make him as light-eyed and fair-skinned as possible. And it really is like if you just have a chart, it really is that simple. There's the memes going around of the comic books and the movies taking red-haired or blonde-haired characters and swapping them out specifically to black. And every time you hear of a race swap character, you know it's, oh, they got rid of a blonde or red-haired character. And they go, oh, no, this time they didn't. Oh, well, then the character must be negative in some way, because that's the only way they're going to portray light-eyed, fair-skinned. It really is that brutally on point. So what Capcom has done is, I think they're working with a Sweet Baby equivalent, some sort of localization team, which, do you need those? It doesn't seem like they're helping the game. Like, why don't you just make the game as the creators intended? Because we have to make Blonde Man bad, or as close as they can get to blonde-haired and blue-eyed. So Capcom accused of race-swapping psychopathic boss Larry Chang from Asian to white, likely due to racial stereotypes, because he's a butcher, and how is an Asian butcher any more of a stereotype than any other butcher on Earth? If there's a butcher in every culture. A butcher is like one of the older professions. So video game publisher Capcom, if there's a negative portrayal, they make it as light-eyed and fair-skinned as possible. So this user shared the screenshots from the original, and he's got some of the same lines to the go. I don't think he's introduced, but he's obviously the same character, because F. Whitey basically is what it all boils down to, where the protagonist goes in the meatpacking building and the character greets him, says, a customer. Well, that's a line he used in the original game, so obviously it's the same character that was in the trailer. In the original game, the character Chang is one of the game's many psychopaths, kind of the Quisling character that was in, what was that book that the Brad Pitt movie was based on, whatever that zombie book was. It was hugely popular like 15 years ago, where Quisling people would lose their mind in the zombie outbreak and try to impersonate zombies. And I think I've got those two, the Walking Dead series, where they cover themselves in gore so they can it's like acts as camouflage for the zombies. I mean, there's a whole interesting thing about are you going to portray the zombie characters as supernatural or scientific? It's kind of complicated when you flesh out these stories, no pun intended. So he's a psychopath, and he's a violent threat to the survivors. I guess he's a cannibal. He's an Asian guy, and he happens to be a butcher who's located in the meat processing area, and he believes zombies are spoiled meat and people are fresh meat. And players encounter him, and they see him dragging another character in the area behind the security cameras, and they arrive on the scene. Sounds like a horrific game. He's hanging the character onto a meat hook and is preparing to butcher him to eat. And they go, this appears, I don't know, it looks vaguely Chinese. Yeah, we can't have a Chinese or an Asian character, and I think this is a Japanese game company. We can't have an Asian portrayed negatively, so we'll just swap that out. Like, what about the other characters? Are you going to make them white also? No, just the negative portrayal. What are you, crazy? We got Larry Fink signing the checks over here. So the accusation has merit, given they announced their Capcom localization team was altering video games for cultural adaptation. That translates into F. Whitey. Preserving context, what does that mean if you change the things? And inclusive storytelling, that means they're going to F in the A, give it monkeypox and AIDS. And they posted a tweet on Twitter, and they say in that, how there's Google Art? There's a thing, I'm going to call it's California upspeak, but it's like the audible Google Art equivalent of this. These assholes, they have this corporate speak thing where they use utilization. They have a bunch of buzzwords that are buzzwords for a couple of years, and then they fade and are replaced by other buzzwords because they go to all the same seminars. And utilization was really overpopular for a while. So what is localization? Embark on a global adventure through the lens of a bunch of soy boy pussies. Game localization with an exclamation mark. What did Terry Pratchett say? Beyond mere translation, we're diving into monkeypox and AIDS, the art of cultural adaptation, preserving context. Well, no, you're not, because you're changing things, and inclusive storytelling. doubling down on monkeypox and AIDS. Join us as we unravel the intricacies that make games resonate worldwide. So that was a bunch of corporate doublespeak, PR type of, the woke up-tip globalist nonsense where they said nothing, but what that translates into, we're going to make it totally, totally lame. So localization isn't just about translating words, it's about adapting the game, which means injecting, whatever the soup du jour is for these soy boys for a global audience. So, how many copies of the game are you selling in India? Is the market in China? I mean, because they're probably just going to pirate this stuff. Like, who's your real audience? Where's most of the money coming from, and what do they want to see? It's like, oh well, if in the case a game or a movie is in America or even a comic, so you go, well, but specifically, who's buying your audience? And even if the demographics for buying a product was, it's 80% men of Western European descent between 15 and 26. Oh, okay. Well, why don't you, give them what they want? Oh, we can't do that. They're all Nazis or like something. So we're gonna make them the bad guys. Oh, okay. You think that might catch up with you eventually? Apparently, they're not worried about that again because they've got Larry Fink pushing them along in this direction. So think cultural nuances, except for people of European descent or Christians or conservatives at all. Idioms and regional flair. A good localization makes players feel right at home wherever in the world they are, except for Christian, conservative people, European descent, who for these games are probably going to be overrepresented in the purchasing of these games. But again, FYD because Larry Fink. Next, they stated loss in translation. Nah, there's way too many exclamation points. Preserving the vibe is key. No, it's like corporate upspeak trying to be funny. It's jokes, references, and even, it's really hard not to use the words that need to be used. Jokes, references, and even gameplay element. What did they do to that? What was that other game? Oh God, where they made everything pink and shaved the sides of the hair. It's like you're describing every game ever. What was it, NX games or something? It's some dystopian future where they're driving around Mad Max cars. It was politically incorrect to start with, but then they remade it, and you could stop the video and look it up. I'm not going to do that. They remade it, and they shaved the sides of the chicks' heads, and they made them fatter and super diverse, and it was made in England or something, and the original jokes were like sex-based and something edgy, at least for the time period, which, believe it or not, was only like 7 years ago before things people did, or I guess it was pre-2016, before people just lost their effing minds with wokeness. And then they remade the game, and then it obviously bombed, and they start firing people. Like, no, things are going great. Things are going great. We just laid off 30 people because things are going so well. Good luck with that. So it's important to find the sweet spot to make sure and offend people of European descent, Christians, conservatives. Make sure players get the intended experience of being sodomized without feeling like something got lost in the process. Quality storytelling, just escapism, just a fun, simple, good time where games can, ultimately with all these games, it comes down to you don't have to buy the games. In fact, you don't have to play games ever. In fact, somebody else in the Twitter comments was saying things like, yeah, maybe it's time to put the games down and get some IRL skills. People are awakening slowly to this mass amounts of bread and circuses, but you don't have to buy the games that do this kind of stuff because the old games still exist. Though if it's in an online cloud type of someone else's servers, then they're not going to exist for long without them going through them and changing them or just making them not available. And the same goes for movies. You watch something and it comes with the new movie comes with a preamble or something about Song of the South. Gee, what's that other movie about the rise of the Birth of a Nation? Birth of a Nation might have some people might be offended by this. Yeah, we gathered that by context. You don't need to have a preamble because it's like prejudging things. I did these 2 other videos yesterday for YouTube, but they were just a little bit politically incorrect. So I put them in the member section because YouTube is just getting lamer and lamer every day because it's Google. Like video games, like movies, like comic books, like everything is just getting. Other people are deciding what other adults what they need to pre-filter things. To do your thinking for you, where you'll eat the bugs, live in the pod, and Canada's gonna have water lockdowns. What? How do you have open borders where the high birth rate people are coming in, but you need to suddenly have environmental restrictions. Oh, the Hegelian dialectic. That's kind of what you intended the whole time. No, understand. We're going to have a police state for your own safety. Anyway, it is. I will say it is getting more and more difficult to make videos for YouTube. It's anyway. So the team that announced it was fully embracing wokeness with cultural sensitivity changes in characters, inclusive language, and representation. That just doesn't sell. People are not on that. Cultural sensitivity changes, character design, development must be culturally. Yeah, you keep saying culturally sensitive, except for the people who buy. Hey, listen, if the Spanish audience was buying was 90% of your audience, I would say market to them. Same for black or Chinese, whatever. Market to your audience. Fair enough, but they won't do that if the audience is people of European descent at all. And this is kind of a death spiral for almost every mainstream company, and this isn't going to change. So your power here is just simply not taking part in it. Like the guy said, learn some IRL skills. Put this is a good time to put video games down. So what? This is the problem with they go, what may be acceptable in one culture might be offensive to another. Well, that means if you really believe that, then you wouldn't be able to do anything. But they don't believe that. That's what they say. But it doesn't. All that translates into is, okay, what's the one group we can offend, we can use as the antagonist? Again, it's blonde, red-haired, light-eyed people. That's the one group that can be the bad guys. Or vaguely, in the cases where it becomes so obvious, like they make them vaguely, they shave the heads, you don't know what they are, they're wearing like hats and things, or so you just can't tell. There was Birds of Prey. If you watch I've watched these movies, and I'm always thinking about this stuff. When it was just so on the nose that the bad guys, they couldn't make the bad guys like red hair and blonde hair in a inner city, it was ridiculous. So they had these shaved head guys who were they could have been vaguely anything, but they were somewhat fair skinned. So it's like, who were the actors really? I don't know, probably mixed Europe, Middle Eastern or something, because they couldn't. They had to be bad guys, but it was so ridiculous to make them, hey, it's a gang in Chicago. Yeah. And they're blonde? No, but we can't make them black, so what do? Just shave their heads and no close-ups on the eye color, and we'll make them vaguely something. Okay, how'd that movie do? So, inclusive language and representation. That doesn't mean anything. They just keep repeating all these Klaus Schwab buzzwords, because if you try to please everyone, it's the paralysis of analysis. You wouldn't make anything. Then they don't mean any of this. You go, oh, hey, this stuff is very offensive to Christians. And actually, the United Nations said they're the most marginalized and oppressed and attacked people on earth. And it's just like, you spoke a foreign language, they didn't hear that. Or this is offensive to, I don't know, Irish or English or Swedish. You start breaking down the ethnicities, and it drives them up the wall, because they want you to identify as just one big group. Is why I don't use the word white as much. None of this makes sense, because if you try to please everyone, you have nothing. All they mean is they're going to use all these buzzwords, and it's going to be the exact same thing you've always had. It's blonde man bad. And someone was, I think Nerdrotic was talking on that Friday nights show he does, and they were talking about the end of Hollywood because everyone can see it, and someone was saying, they're trying to bring back sitcoms, and it boils down to they just can't, because sitcom means you have to point fun at everybody. It's like that with any show. It's everyone has to be at least equally portrayed, and there's no way to do that nowadays. If they try to bring back a sitcom, it'll be the exact same thing they've had, where the non-white character is going to be smart, funny, ingenious, the one solving all the problems, and the ones with the blonde hair, blue eyes have to be the bad guys. So Hollywood is also in a death spiral. That's going to be interesting to watch. Anyway, humor often relies on cultural references and wordplay, and not offending, cultural sensitivity, and inclusive language representation, except for people who look like you and I. But the only thing I can say to this is people are finally kind of awakening to all this. You just don't have to pay for any of these things. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys all next episode.